Police officers of Reddit, what was your they could have gotten away with it if they had kept their mouth shut moment? I was asked to help keep peace while 2 probation officers searched a guy's house. Before everyone gets upset, in most jurisdictions, you have to submit to a search of your person and your home if you're on probation. During the search, a PO lifted the probationer's mattress and said monotonously, "Wow." The probationer got upset and said, "Yeah, it's fucking meth and a gun. Arrest me, I don't give a fuck." Turns out the PO found a huge dildo, but after the guy opened his mouth, the PO lifted the mattress more and found a bunch of individually wrapped grams of meth and a Glock 17. The PO said that seeing the dildo was enough for him to ignore the mattress, but because the guy said something, he kept looking. That's guy's attitude, and his need to open his mouth got him 10 years in prison. LPT how to hide your stuff. LPT hide illegal items under sex toys. No, hide them in your sex toys. You're telling me you can't find a weird enough shaped dildo somewhere online that could hold some meth and a Glock 17? Someone hasn't been browsing Pornhub by new submissions. Edit. Something about not expecting my very own silver, but I'd rather take a moment to say, if you are going to hide a gun, please remember where it is, so I don't read the headline "Redditor shoots himself/herself in the genitals because they forgot that's where they hid their firearm." A cousin of a friend of mine travels around the state to take in deadbeat dads. Gets to one place, a 4-year-old kid is home, dad isn't. So the cop starts talking to the kid, making sure he's okay and such. After a bit of this, kid says to cop, "Want to see my dad's secret garden?" Takes him to a closet with a false back, opens it up to see a small pot farm. Guy gets home to a few cop cars and a few chargers. In college, a buddy and I drove out to a house party, only for it to get busted as soon as we arrived. In attempt to show my friend how cool I was, I started antagonizing one of the officers from the passenger seat of my buddy's car that was parked on the side of the street, telling him that I'd send him the address to the next party, that kind of thing. We go back and forth until the cop asks my friend move his car into the driveway. He asks for identification and runs my license. After about 30 minutes, he hands me a maximum fine ticket for a seatbelt violation. Clever bastard saw I wasn't wearing a seatbelt, so he had my friend move his car a couple feet so he could ticket me. / a Charlotte tax. Yeah, normally I'd say the cop was overstepping his bounds, but you kind of poked a bear in that scenario. Not a police officer, but I do know of this house in my local village that was a notorious drug den. The police came to search the place, but couldn't find anything. As they were leaving, the lovely owner yelled at them that they should brought the drug dogs. So yeah, they came back a few days later with the drug sniffing dogs and found huge amounts of drugs hidden away. Absolute morons. Okay, so we had a DUI accident where a guy kept driving straight into the woods into a tree because his GPS was predicting a future street. He walked back to his hotel room and left his check-in papers in the car. So we go to the hotel and go to his room and knock on the door. He did not have to answer, but he did. He was pretty clearly drunk. I asked him if he had anything to drink since the accident. He did not have to answer, or he could have told us that he drank after the accident. He said, "No, I haven't had anything to drink since the accident. And where I'm from you have 24 hours to report a property damage only accident. So it wasn't even a hit and run." So as I'm locking the guy up, he tells me he's a lawyer. I told him I hope you're not a defense attorney. But in his defense, he was drunk. Mitchell, there's no road here. Pull over this guy for expired tabs. Ask for his ID and he's feeling around for his wallet. Can't find it. He says, "Ah man, I'm one of you. It's cool." Oh, what department? Oh, actually I'm a security guard, but same thing. I'm polite. "So where's your ID?" "Oh, it's in the..." And he motions to the trunk. "It's in the trunk." "Actually, no. My BS radar is going off." "Okay, want to get your ID out of the trunk?" "Nah, I don't have it." He starts looking around for another story to use. But now I know I'm supposed to stay out of the trunk. He's also not giving me any more information. No ID. Then I have to take you in and get you fingerprinted. I'm going to get into that trunk one way or another. He's looking like he's lost. I ask him what's in the trunk, but he's not talking anymore. We pull him out and get him in cuffs. Another officer takes him to get ID through fingerprints. Since his car is expired past 6 months, California, we tow the car. In the process of getting ready to tow the car, we need to take a quick inventory. In the trunk was a police uniform with fake patches and a metal badge. No gun, but a duty belt. He also has stacks of child porn. This is a guy who a neighboring city had been looking for months. His MO was to dress as a police officer, talk to kids, and you can figure out the rest. If he just gave me his name, I could have looked up his ID and verified he had one. I'd probably have let him go. But, edit, the neighboring city had zero information as to his name. They only had a vague description of the car and the fact he was posing as a police officer. In fact, what he would do is start talking to a kid in the 9 to 12-year-old range. Tell him he has to be taken in for questioning, handcuff the kid, and take him to his car. He was a bad dude. Edit 2. I just found out about the platinum and gold and silver. I truly appreciate your generosity, and I'm humbled and honored to be the recipient. Thanks for all the kind words. As an officer, we just don't hear enough of the thanks. But really, we knew that going in. Take care and stay safe. Honestly, I'm really happy about this one. Good on you, man. Not a cop, but pretty applicable to the thread. When I was in high school, I liked to park in parking spots that cars had parked poorly next to, just as a fuck you. One time I was at a high school football game and a Jeep had parked like shit. He was nearly halfway into the spot next to him and parked at an angle. I was driving a 98 feet Chevy Silverado, big old pickup truck, at the time, and I had my brother help guide me into the spot, so I was perfectly in the lines. That made it so the driver door was completely impossible to get in. I took a picture for the novelty of it and went on my way. When I got back to my car, the Jeep was gone, and every panel on the passenger side of my car was keyed. There was an officer nearby, so I told him about it and showed him the picture. He told me there's not a lot they could do because there were no witnesses, but he'd give it a shot. He looked up their license plate, called them and asked them if they had done it. They confessed and ended up having to pay $1,600 in restitution along with getting a felony. Edit, grammar. Edit 2. Thank you for the silver and all of the support. This is my first award on Reddit. I'm a nice guy, and I enjoy a chat. You'd be surprised how much this lowers someone's guard. Stood in full uniform, people will just start telling you things that could get them in trouble. Multiple times I had to tell people to shut up. It was usually petty things like where they hid their weed stash that they'd got a bifter in their pocket for later. Not really worth the time and effort to deal with how skeezed we were. One time a guy really got himself in trouble by effectively telling me he had stolen property on him. I had to act on that one. Not a cop but a witness. During college, my friends and I would hang out outside and smoke hookah. Frequently we would invite strangers who passed by to join, or campus police would casually chat with us as they made their rounds. So one time a group of freshmen walked past and asked to join. After about 15 minutes the campus police car rolls up and the freshmen get visibly nervous. We tell them calm down, the cops are chill. As soon as the cop gets out of the car, one freshman bolts and makes it about 20 feet before the cop tackles him. We all clap and heckle the kid. Upon searching him, the cop finds a bunch of weed. Then he says, "You realize prior to running, I had no reason to be suspicious. I just wanted to talk to my friends over there." And points at us. The cop ends up writing a ticket and sends him off. In college, after an early football game, we had a large group at my house. We were planning on partying, but there was a really good game on, so everyone was just sitting around watching the game. We were about 50 over 50 underaged, ages 20 to 22. There were a few people who had beers, but the drinking had not started. People were flowing in steadily, and I guess the neighbor saw the amount of cars and called the cops to file a noise complaint at 7 p.m. There was a knock at the door and someone said come in. In walks a cop. I survey the room to realize everyone who had a beer was over 21. Except one. Just as the officer was about to speak, she takes off and dives from the couch to behind the kitchen counter. The cop pauses, shakes his head. Said there was a noise complaint, but he had been sitting outside for 10 minutes and hasn't heard a word. Said to enjoy the game. Looks at the kitchen, shakes his head again and walks out. Luckily, I lived in the town next door to the college, or it would have been a rough night.